Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Eden Mabon of lightcycleastrology.com. Welcome back to the channel, friends. Today we are talking about two aspects that are forming in the sky this week. And that is the Mars Trine Neptune aspect that began forming yesterday on Tuesday. And today we have the Venus Trine Saturn aspect that is beginning to form in the sky as well. So normally I wouldn't talk about two aspects in one video, but it seems to me that both of these aspects are telling a story that is intermingling or dovetailing with one another. And it didn't seem right to talk about one without the other, since they're basically forming at the same time. They're forming between the same two signs, and they're both sharing that same trine aspect. So it seemed like the story needed to be told from both of these aspects at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to give some themes to watch for both of these aspects, and we're going to alternate from one to the other. And I think that this is going to paint a picture of how both of these energies are pairing and trying to get us to think about their themes together. So that is what we're going to take a look at today. Of course, before we get into it, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Leave me some comments in the comment section. I have been really enjoying some of the comments. Thank you to everybody. A lot of people have been leaving me very positive and uplifting comments. That has been really great. I share them with my partner, and it's really nice to get those. And I love the sense of community too. It feels like it's just not a one-way street. Like I get to see how all of you are experiencing these transits, and that's so much better than me just, pontificating on them, all by myself and making videos about it. So thank you to everybody. Also, I've been getting comments sometimes here and there that are like pushback comments, and I like those too, because those are really helping me figure out how to grow, improve the channel, what to talk about, how to make myself more clear or whatnot. I really appreciate those as well. So don't feel like you can't push back. I don't think that astrology was ever meant to be, like a dogmatic thing where somebody has the ultimate say or authority of how we should read or interpret things. There are many different ways. And at the end of the day, we're reading symbols. So, it's like, who could be the ultimate authority on that, right? I don't know that anybody could. So anyway, thanks to all the commenters. And you can always go to my website, lightcycleastrology.com, if you ever want to send me a message or check out a personalized reading for yourself. Okay, now let's go ahead and pull up the real-time clock and take a look at the timing of these aspects before we jump into the themes to watch for. Please forgive my clunkiness of operation here. I have been still getting used to this new StreamYard recording software that I'm using and putting labels on and all that. But first, let's take a look at the Mars Trine Neptune. Now, this began yesterday, Tuesday. I'm using East Coast Central Time here. Sometimes people ask me, what time zone am I using? I'm using Eastern Standard Time. Also, some people are curious about, am I using Western astrology? Am I using Vedic Eastern astrology? So I'm using traditional Western horoscopic or tropical astrology. So hopefully that helps you to get in alignment with the symbols that I'm reading for here. But East Coast time and Western astrology. Now, so you can see here, as of last night, now this is pretty much late evening, May the 9th, yesterday on Tuesday night here, we had Mars at about 20, almost 24 degrees of Cancer, beginning to walk into that 3-degree range of engagement to Neptune, who is at 26. So what do I mean by that? Well, from the practice of what we know of how ancient astrologers were practicing astrology in the ancient world, typically they considered aspects to be in each other's like relational energy field 3 degrees before the exact perfected degree of the aspect, and about 3 degrees after that. So there was about a 6-degree range. But what I think is most interesting here is that the way you interpret the 3 degrees before the perfection of the aspect and the 3 degrees after the perfection of the aspect is almost a little bit like a scale that tips from one to the next. So you could almost think of it as like kind of like a cause and effect, where the 3 degrees before maybe is like the cause, and then you get the 3 degrees after is almost like the reaction or the effect. And usually you'll notice that the 3 degrees before is the time period where that period from the beginning of engagement to the perfection is sort of like a build-up period of those themes, whatever themes we're looking at. It's kind of like the build-up to that. So things kind of intensify thematically in those particular ways. And then there's the perfection, and that's almost the moment where the scale kind of tips into like the ripening of fruit for maybe a reaction or something manifest to sort of drop from the tree at that point. It's like something has ripened and it's ready to become manifest or be noticed in the world. Sometimes it happens before, but typically we look for manifestations or the time that we notice the energies between the planets or the themes between the planets sort of coming through somewhere within that 6-degree range of engagement. And that's just because we're on this channel, we're looking at astrology through that traditional or classical Hellenistic practice. But whichever the case is, we have yesterday the aspect between Neptune and Mars beginning. And then this really is, well, okay, let's jump over to Venus now. So Venus is beginning to make that trine to Saturn today. So let me roll the clock forward here one day here. So we've got Venus at 3 degrees and Saturn at 6 degrees. So Venus is about 3 degrees before the 6 degrees of Cancer. So that's when she begins to walk into that engagement range with Saturn there. So both aspects sort of starting off, almost, within hours of each other, basically. And then when does Venus perfect her aspect? This is perfecting by 2:48 a.m. on Friday, May the 12th here. And so let's roll the clock forward to May the 12th, definitely by 3 a.m. We've got that perfection between Venus and Saturn. Okay, and then if we go back to Mars, Mars takes quite a bit longer here. Mars takes all the way until May the 15th to perfect to Neptune. So that's because Mars is a slower moving planet, but by 9:38 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we've got that perfection between Mars and Neptune. And then, so this is interesting what happens past this point. Now both planets are perfected, but Venus will leave the 3-degree range of engagement by May the 16th. By the 16th, Venus is now beginning to move beyond that 3-degree range from Saturn at 6 degrees and 21 minutes. So once Venus gets at 9 degrees and 25 minutes, you can see that the two planets are thought to be beyond, the engagement range. So it's not to say that you couldn't feel something past this moment or even before two planets are moving into aspect, but it's just probably waning down by that point. And if we take a look at Mars, Mars is really interesting because Mars essentially moves out of the engagement range as a consequence of him simply moving into another sign. So that happens by May the 20th here. Let me go back. So there goes Mars entering the sign of Leo, by right around noon or so on May the 20th, which is really interesting. And this is almost like a light switch. Now, Mars and Neptune were almost at the end of their 3-degree range of separation anyway by this point. But, essentially, as Mars crosses into Leo, that sort of cuts off the trine aspect between the signs of Pisces and Cancer, right? Those two water signs that are going to be entwined to each other by whole sign as Mars moves out of that sign of Cancer and into another sign. Leo and Pisces don't share any trine aspects. So essentially the degree-based trine gets like switched off. The whole sign trine gets switched off. The whole aspect just like cuts out like a light switch. Now, that's probably almost a moot point because Mars is almost out of the 3 degrees by this point anyway, but I just thought that was an interesting point. Let's go ahead and we'll get rid of the clock here and let's talk about the themes to watch for now. So we're just going to alternate between a Mars trine Neptune theme and a Venus trine Saturn theme. We're going to go back and forth. And I think that this is going to be interesting. It's going to really point to how the stories are needing each other to flesh out the entire energy of this week. So let's go ahead and we'll start with our first Mars trine Neptune theme, which is going to be theme number one is sympathy for people with emotional wounds. Mars in Cancer and Neptune in Pisces, this is definitely a very watery aspect between the two signs. Both of them are water signs. And water often, as most people know, equates to emotions at times. So we could be working through emotional wounds. Mars in the ancient world was thought to be a planet indicating wounds or injury. And so maybe this is some kind of emotional wound or injury. And you get Neptune, a very empathetic or sympathetic planet in the sign of Pisces, which is also a very empathetic and sympathetic sign. So one theme I could see just in general is a theme of people working things out emotionally, and having that trine aspect represent kind of support or sympathy or empathy or something like that. So I think that this could be a time where we're just kind of getting through some emotional things, and maybe there is the potential for those to be supported or things to work out a little bit better or cohesively than sometimes they do. When we get into emotional things, a lot of times those don't go so well, but this might be a time where we broach those topics with loved ones or friends or whatever, and they just have a better potential of working out in more of a supportive way. And I hope that is the case. So hopefully that is something that is coming through for people if they need that energy. So theme number one, sympathy for people with emotional wounds. Okay, now let's alternate to a Venus trine Saturn theme, a relationship reaching a certain positive stage of maturity or commitment. So you see how this dovetails with the last one, which I think is just fascinating. But Venus and Saturn archetypes, especially if they're in positive aspect with one another, brings out that general archetype of like the wine becoming mature and better. It's like sometimes Saturn all of a sudden provides you like an easier way of just seeing things in a more mature light. It's sort of like, we can all get embroiled in our own turmoil or drama sometimes. And this might be kind of an energy that says, look at it from just a little bit more of a pragmatic or a little bit more of a practical side. Just, maybe like cool down the emotions a little bit and see it a little bit more objectively, something like that. But this could be a time where if this is about a relationship or relations with somebody, that there's the sense of positive growth that happens because there is just more of a mature standpoint that we are talking about things or relating to one another or taking on responsibility that helps the relationship, so that we can work out emotional things and have that sense of like a mature attitude, so to speak. So that is Venus theme number one here, a relationship reaching a certain positive stage of maturity or commitment. Likewise, this could be, of course, anytime you get a Venus trine Saturn aspect, sometimes these can be about taking a relationship to a more committed space, like an engagement or a marriage. But, this doesn't have to be about relationships. This just could be about putting things into perspective as far as what you want, something like that. So it doesn't have to be about relationships. Okay, now let's move on to Mars theme 2, which is going to be hitting rock bottom followed by spiritual redemption, or actually recovering from emotional turmoil, abuse, addiction, loss, or etc. Right. So this, we are talking about Neptune here and Mars in this very watery, in these very watery signs. So this one for me reminds me of when I was a child. My father was a severe alcoholic, and part of my childhood, about half of the time, was spent in AA meeting type of environments, or with people from AA, were like people that were around me. And I was in those meetings. So this sort of reminds me of the energy where it's like the recovery. It's like when my dad would figure out, or something would happen, and he would come to the realization. It's like, hey, I need to get better. I need to go back to the meetings and find my place back with some ethical principle foundation, right? And get away from this thing that is hurting me. This would be like the time where he would go back to meetings after a relapse, and he would get that, like, it was like, I think they give you like a 1-day chip, and then it's like a 1-month chip, and then so you get those, they would give you those chips that would encourage you. And this has that real sense of like the trine happening with Neptune in Pisces and that Jupiter kind of energy that is providing that community support. This has this real sense of like, is there a way in which we're finding some spiritual redemption or some actual recovery that is bolstered by people around us or communities or family or something like that? But it feels like a moment where there could be some kind of redemption or spiritual recovery that comes. So that is theme number 2 for Mars trine Neptune. Now let's alternate to Venus trine Saturn. We got theme number 2. Venus trine Saturn theme number 2 is going to be bringing desire under control or in line with ethical standards. So if you think about Saturn in the sign of Pisces, Saturn is going to bring in that kind of mature or controlling practicality, or limiting, and it is going to do so in a Jupiterian kind of way. So it might have something to do with our ethical values or our principles or morality or faith or something like that. And Venus oftentimes relates to things that we want, things that we desire. So this might be a period where there is some energy that is trying to help us come to terms with something that we want, something that we're desiring. And it gives us the ability to be a little bit more objective, again, a little bit more looking at it from a practical, responsible, or objectionable kind of viewpoint. And it helps us, not be so maybe hasty in what we want, or, something like that. So that is theme number 2, is maybe, having the maturity to bring something back into like an ethical or like principled standpoint. Okay, now let's alternate to theme number 3 for the Mars trine Neptune. On a spiritual mission, a Joan of Arc moment, a self-sacrifice or defending others, a finding religion. Yeah, you get that real kind of Joan of Arc kind of theme whenever you have Mars and Neptune together, especially in these watery signs. So I'm pulling in that, Neptune is in Pisces, and Pisces ruled by Jupiter again. So you really have that almost like spiritual kind of religious or moral kind of thing that is connecting to Mars, which is the warrior. So could there be some positive change or some positive energy that is like the warrior element coming together with something religious, spiritual, something that is based in what we believe in, that fights for beliefs, fights for our religion, fights for a spiritual foundation, sort of comes to the defense or aid, and you get the sense that there's like Mars is on a mission here, but it's a mission of like some kind of higher ideal or higher moral or higher principle or belief or justice or something like that. But there's that theme of kind of like protecting people that are unjustly treated or need our help or need to be, picked back up again. And Mars is in fall in the sign of Cancer. So some of that energy of Mars is relatable to people that are fallen down. There's like, it's like a tough low point for Mars. And you get the sense that it's a little bit like relatable for Mars to go, oh, I see somebody else that is struggling. Let me help them out. And it provides some spiritual like center for you that is like almost positive. So that is theme number 3. Okay, let's alternate back to Venus trine Saturn theme number 3 here. And this is going to be taking on responsibilities for others out of love, right? So this is pretty basic and simple, but that trine energy between Venus and Saturn speaks to, again, having the maturity to say, this thing around the home needs attention. It needs doing, and people are busy. Let me just do that myself, or let me take on the duties that help out family or friends, or, let me shoulder the burden of people I love, and you sort of do it out of love. So that's theme number 3. If we jump to theme number 4 for the Mars trine Neptune, we come to defending who you are morally, ethically, or spiritually. Yeah. Again, very interesting that Mars defender quality that is making that trine back to Neptune in a Jupiter-ruled sign that is going to connect for a lot of us to something uh, that is a moral conviction, a spiritual center, a religious and ethical kind of place, or a place of where we find justice. Mars is going to defend those things, especially since he is depressed right now. He is going to look for salvation, and he say, how can I rise up? Well, I'm going to defend my position. I have the right. I have the moral high ground, right? And so I'm going to defend that. And this could be a time where, sometimes doing things like that works out really badly when you try to defend the moral high ground, right? But this could be a time where defending the moral high ground actually improves things. We all need a time where sometimes enough is enough, and we just have to say, I have the right to believe this. I have the right to be here. I have the right. This is who I am. And sometimes that can be a real positive thing to do that. It's like enough is enough. I need to communicate, defend, define where my boundaries are. That creates some positive reinforcing of who I am morally, ethically, my right to believe in things, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that is theme number 4 for Mars trine Neptune. Now let's alternate. Venus trine Saturn, theme number 4, support from older family members. A lot of times Saturn can represent people that are elders, right? He can represent grandparents or fatherly figures, or anybody that has a wiser, more mature, more aged kind of perspective. And that trine is all about support. It is said to be of the nature of Jupiter, and Jupiter tends to bring things that are positive or beneficial to us, or supportive, or like an ally kind of an energy. So could we get kind of an allied support for somebody who is older and more wiser, like a family member or something like that? I think so. So that could be one way in which we see this energy this week. Okay, now let's alternate to theme number 5 for Mars trine Neptune. We have healing waters that soothe inflammation in the body, in the family, in the home. Lately on this channel, I've been sort of taking a different approach to some of these outer planets, where I've been going back to the origins of the mythological roots of these names that we named the outer planets after we discovered them. And for instance, Neptune originally was a smaller demigod of Italy, and he was connected to the water in wells. Originally, he didn't even have any connection to the ocean. And so I find it interesting to try to interpret aspects being made to this god that originally was connected to just water. And we're talking about water. Neptune is in the sign of Pisces, which is a Jupiter-ruled sign. So we're talking about a Jupiterian kind of water. And so I wonder if there isn't some kind of beneficial or healing waters that soothe inflammation in the body. Mars often relates to things that are inflamed or aggravated or angry. So you could get kind of a soothing effect, So I don't know if that is just simply somebody going out and taking a nice swim in an ocean or in a lake or a river or something like that. It's springtime. It's beginning to get to be warmer weather now. And just that activity of doing that sort of has a very restorative effect on your body. Actually, I've been checking out a new channel that has been really, really amazing. The topic of the channel has been earthing. And this is the notion that you ground to the earth, and in our modern lifestyle, we have lost connection to the earth's natural frequency, and that frequency resets a lot of things in the body. And his name is Stefan, who runs the channel. I'll put a link in the description about this channel, because I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but Stefan, who creates the videos, he is a geophysicist is what he is. He looks like a kind of hippie, but he's a really cool dude. And I've been getting into this earthing healing. And one of the ways that he said or recommended to, one of the quickest ways to connect to the energy of the earth that can help you heal your body and get everything kind of working in the right way again, especially with hormones and hormone regulation and things like that, is to swim in bodies of water, because the water is conductive of the earth's natural frequency, energetic frequency. So you get in that water, man, and it like it's surrounding your whole body. It's connecting to all the parts of your body. So this is something like that. Now, I actually didn't think about that as I was coming up with this theme. I'm just using the symbols to come up with the themes. But now that I think about it, maybe taking just a swim is going to be really healing and soothe some inflammation in the body. Or we could be talking about, again, more emotional work that we're doing with ourselves or with others. So it could be emotional work that we're doing with people in the family or the home. And you sort of imagine kind of the water representing emotions, but the emotions soothing. So that is theme number 5. Let's alternate to Venus. Theme number 5 is the resolution of emotional issues getting worked out with people, out with the help of tempered wisdom and grace. So yeah, again, this is kind of that same thing where we're talking about the potentiality of things getting worked out emotionally with people. But it's because there is that tempered wisdom, that Saturn in Pisces, that Saturn running through a Jupiter filter. And then Venus oftentimes can be a planet that tries to bring people together into some kind of harmony. So the trine aspect is a good aspect between these two planets to come to those emotional resolutions that we work on with people, but specifically because there is just like a tempered kind of wisdom or a grace that is coming from Venus. So that is theme number 5. Theme number 6 for the Mars trine Neptune is going to be becoming your own healthy flowing stream, which means to separate yourself out from destructive, emotional, or environmental situations, right? I sort of imagine this as that stream that splits off. Mars is often an indicator of independence, doing something on your own. So I thought, how could this connection with Neptune and water? And it sort of reminded me of like a stream, finding its own path and going its own way, and somehow that being very beneficial. So I wonder if there is, in a metaphorical sense, a way in which you need to sort of be your own stream at this point that is going to bring some kind of health or healing back to a situation or circumstance in your life. So that is theme number 6 for Mars. And theme number 6 for the Venus trine Saturn is going to be feeling nostalgic about pastimes, music, culture, good times, etc. Both Saturn and Venus in the moon's sign of Cancer sometimes get back at the past, right? The moon deals with things of the past. Saturn deals with things of the past. And Venus is a planet that is going to be about past times that have been good or nostalgic or pleasurable or joyful. And Saturn, running through Jupiter's sign, again, is going to be maybe looking back at that hopeful or optimistic perspective that we had from memories. You get the sense that there is something maybe that we're hearkening back to in the past that has this nostalgic, warm feeling, this emotional connection to music that we used to listen to food that we used to eat, to culture or family that we, loved and had good times with, things like that. So there's definitely a theme of like nostalgia and the past here. Okay, let's move on to theme number 7 for Mars trine Neptune is going to be sexually healing. Yeah, both of these planets are in water signs. And we, after all, we are talking about Mars and Venus now being co-present in the sign of Cancer, a sign of the body. And we're talking about Saturn and Neptune being present in a Jupiter sign that is often connected with eroticism or lovemaking or fertility. So I guess just a general theme could be some kind of healing around sexual relations or activity, or, I don't know if it's tantra or um, getting back into a positive space with how we relate to ourselves sexually or with other people sexually or within relationship. But in any case, there could be a theme of sexuality becoming healed, I think, with both Mars and Venus in Cancer, making aspects back to planets in Pisces. Okay, and last but not least, let's alternate back to Venus trine Saturn for theme number 7, a mature sense of style, art, relating, or decorating. This could be a time where maybe we look around our house and we think to ourselves, this doesn't fit me anymore. I am a little bit wiser or older, I'm a little bit more sophisticated. So let me go ahead and redecorate, get some new decorations that sort of reflects the sort of leveling up of sophistication or maturity that I have. So this could be about a personal sense of style or an enjoyment of art, or again, about relationships, how we relate to other people, or it could just be about decorations around us. So, okay, guys, well, that is what I have for today. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you guys got something useful out of this. And please go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment section how some of these things are resonating for you. And again, you can push back if you don't agree. That's fine too as well. But I'll see you again on Friday. We're going to take a look at what is Hellenistic astrology in general. And I'm going to, instead of talking about a particular transit, since these transits are really lasting for about a week and they're sort of the main transits, I'm going to change up the style a little bit. And we're just going to get into some perennial wisdom about, if you're new to ancient, classical, or Hellenistic astrology, I'm going to be doing sort of a crash course, very simple look at what is Hellenistic astrology. And that will provide some, information for those who don't know that much about it or are new to it, or, it's been a while since they had a refresher on what it's all about or something like that. So that's what we're going to get into on Friday. So thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.